You've heard the song from one of the greatest media corporations on the planet. It's a small world, after all. Chapter 4 covers the global media structure. Don't just think it is the World Wide Web that has shrunk the globe. Traditional media have, through different models of ownership, been global for years. Global media has become a worldwide industry. Here you can see how global media has been defined by Global Policy Forum. You can see that things such as telephones, email, ocean liners all have increased global media throughout time. Politicians, academicians, and journalists have treated these trends as both inevitable and, on a whole, welcome. What does this mean for you as a media manager? It means you're going to have to be more flexible. You're going to have to be more schooled in international policy and politics, and you're going to have to get past any ethnocentric ideas you have. Remember, you are citizens of the United States, but you are also citizens of the world. It used to be you were in competition against other U.S. media outlets. CBS, ABC, and NBC were battling one another for airtime. Now they have to take on BBC. Hollywood had the movie industry cornered. Other film studios are springing up around the world and are fighting for U.S. audiences. Newspapers? Forget about it. I can read a paper from Tokyo just as easily as I can read the Warrensburg Daily Star Journal. Okay, not as easily since I don't speak Japanese, but you get the idea. In 2005, worldwide advertising spending approached $400 billion. However, as you can see by the chart, in 2004, 5 corporations controlled a majority of U.S. media. That was just a tenth of how many corporations controlled media outlets in 1993. As a media manager, you have 2 questions to ask when it comes to media globalization. Why globalize? And why now? These are important questions to answer because they will directly affect strategic management. To understand these answers, you as a media manager must understand that you operate the intersection of markets, technology, and policy. Markets refer to the economics of media, including available resources, demand for products and services, and the business models media companies use so they can stay in business. One of the unique characteristics of the media business includes a high level of risk and uncertainty because of unpredictable demand, because it is hard to test the market, and because some media interest is culturally specific. Another unique characteristic is high production costs. Only 2 of 10 movies recoup production costs domestically. And speaking from experience, a television studio can cost $1 million to outfit, tens and even hundreds of thousands to maintain. We are also talking about time-constrained consumption. Audiences first have to buy the media, but then they have to have time to consume them. How many newspaper or magazine subscriptions have you canceled because you simply did not have the time to read? And a fourth unique characteristic is the externality value of media, meaning it has ripple effects on society, both social and political. Your textbook uses the example that books are used in education, and education itself produces value in society. Technology has created all kinds of changes in the media, and no, I'm not talking about the Gutenberg press to the radio to the television. Technology opened channels of distribution, making it easier and cheaper to distribute via cable and satellite technology. VCRs, DVDs, digital music, the internet, and social media also make it where audiences can consume media from the comfort of their own homes, which creates new challenges for media managers. Because it is now easier and cheaper to distribute, increased competition exists. For example, I tell my sports broadcasting students who are a little more industrious that they might consider taking some business classes and then get a partner, take out a small interest loan, buy a TriCaster system and the necessary accoutrements, and boom, they can go start their own small business filming and webcasting high school sports. Naturally, with increased competition, you get more fragmentation and niche audiences. This once was the strength of magazines over other media types. Radio has enjoyed this for years as well, but today television, because of the increased options, also has fragmented. This increased and increasing competition also creates a unique challenge for media managers. Finally, policy. Because of new, more open laws, it is easier than ever to operate in countries around the world. It also has made it more difficult because now media managers have to be aware of international laws, including laws pertaining to freedom of the press and freedom of speech. This global map from 2014 shows the different levels of press freedom around the world. If you want to make a movie across the Pacific, you better be aware of the differences in media law in the US and China. Corporations may either be vertically or horizontally structured. Media corporations that are vertically integrated own operations that handle functions along the way. This would be a newspaper company that also owns the power plant that supplies the newsprint and the trucking company that distributes the newspaper. In the movie industry, it's the production company that also owns the editing company and the distribution center. This creates synergy, as now the same company can make the necessary decisions without having to negotiate with other entities. When corporations integrate vertically, they enjoy several benefits. Tax and regulation relief is one because they are now working at a higher production and thus spending and income level. They also don't have to form contracts because the printing company now owns the paper distributor. Because of the similarities between, say, the filming and editing arms, you can't edit what you haven't filmed, right? You will also enjoy some benefits there. Think about this. If you have to edit the film, you might have more say in what and how it is shot, thus saving time and effort on the post-production side. And finally, scale. In printing a magazine, for example, it is not the number printed that drives up the cost. It's the production of the plate used in printing. So if you control the printing cost, you don't have to worry about selling more units to offset printing. A great example of vertical integration is Disney's Lion King. Disney not only owns the rights to the film, and thus the DVDs, Blu-rays, CDs, and such, but it also owns the right to, and in its subsidiaries in the production of, all merchandise. But it also owns the rights to the Broadway show, the TV series, the toys, and everything else related to The Lion King. Of course, as with anything else, with the benefits come the drawbacks. Yes, you can reduce some costs, which results in higher profits. Naturally, you can also improve the supply chain. And sure, you have some increased control and specialization, which is appealing to investors who are only interested in investing in specific businesses. But you also are going to have to deal with more stiff competition because you are going to have fewer suppliers for the things you do need supplied. You also don't have as much flexibility or product variability because you can only manufacture so much. That's the old do a lot of things good or a few things great scenario. And you are going to have some increased bureaucratic costs because now you have only one group of leaders and managers running the show. Yes, this can make the communication easier, but it can also lead to a lot of politics and red tape among the head mucky mucks. Horizontal integration, on the other hand, is when a media company expands into other like businesses. Hearst, for example, has divisions that include 15 daily and 34 weekly newspapers, 24 U.S. and more than 300 international magazines, broadcasting with 19 television and 2 radio stations, and business media. Again, here you can see some of the pros and cons of horizontal integration. Now let's talk about some different managerial structures. The joint venture structure means more than one party owns the company, each with an equal share. 3 things to think about are that 1, many countries require foreign corporations to enter into joint ventures with domestic companies. 2, each of the companies involved may now share the risks. And 3, you will be entering into licensing agreements, which include the programming format and programming. Another model is the international model, where a company creates a product with the intent of exporting it with little or no change. For example, the TV show CIS Miami is produced here in the U.S. for an American audience, but it is also distributed and aired globally. The multinational model has a parent company that gets established and then forms other companies around the world that then produce products and programming for those markets. For example, we have Disney World and Disneyland. Europe has Euro Disney. In the transnational model, meanwhile, the business conducts operations in several countries with varying degrees of coordination and integration of strategy and operations. It leverages the unique advantages of local markets to drive sales, market share, and profit growth. Transnational businesses may use global brands or create specialized local brands. They take advantage of today's deregulatory and privatization trends to make large combinations through mergers, acquisitions, and strategic alliances. And this way, they increase market share, diversify product lines, and create greater efficiency of operation. Obviously, there are some issues you need to consider when you manage a global media outlet. One is simply the nature of being in a foreign market. You're going to have to learn the market conditions, the level of competition, and the legal and regulatory structures that may be found on foreign soil. Product development is also a consideration because not everything translates well from one country to the next. You also have foreign copyright issues to consider. Managing people with differing values, ethics, work practices and standards, and religions can also be a challenge. Nonverbal communication is also not the same. For example, in the US, if you cross your legs, it means you are relaxed. If you cross your legs in the Middle East, you've insulted your host, as you've shown him or her the bottom of your shoe. Finally, work hours, salary expectations, and benefits can also be a challenge. Watch the movie $1 Million Arm, and you will get a great sense of this truth. And finally, laws vary from country to country. Be familiar with the laws and regulations in every country in which you plan to operate. As with any challenge, though, there are solutions. One is to hire a manager from the overseas market. This person is going to know the culture, the laws, and the manner in which the country does business. Another option is to send a manager from the parent company into the foreign market to lead the way. Of course, it is critical that this person be familiar with the culture. When I worked at Missouri Southern, for example, a major trucking company was based in Joplin, and it sent one of its managers to Mexico to study the language and culture. He then became very comfortable in communicating and working with the organization's Mexican subsidiaries. Keep these things in mind before you decide to take your media corporation global. Planning is key. Make sure you do so well. And remember, it is a small world after all.